$1 billion. That is the combined figure spent on security for the 2026 FIFA World Cup. $1 billion across federal budgets, FEMA grants, stadium contracts, counter-drone operations, private personnel, physical barriers, and surveillance systems covering 16 stadiums across 3 countries. $1 billion to keep a World Cup safe, to make sure the right people get in, to ensure that every fan inside a stadium had a valid ticket in their hand. And then, England played Croatia at Dallas Stadium, and fans who had paid thousands to be there, fans who had spent months planning, booking, traveling, watched in disbelief as other people simply strolled through the gaps beside the ticket barriers. No ticket, no scan, no problem. Just a gap at the side of the checkpoint, a volunteer who was not stopping anyone, and a World Cup match to walk into. It was ridiculous, one England fan told the Daily Mail afterward. There were big gaps at the side of the ticket barriers, and people just strolled through. There were volunteers who were basically old ladies, and they weren't stopping anyone. $1 billion in security spending, and the gaps were big enough to stroll through. FIFA has denied that anyone entered without a valid ticket, but the fans who were inside that stadium, the fans who paid, who planned, who followed the rules, have a very different story to tell. And the history of this tournament's security operation gives those stories a weight that FIFA's denial cannot simply dismiss. Stay with us, because what happened at Dallas Stadium is not an isolated moment. It is the latest chapter in a security story this World Cup has been writing since before a single ball was kicked. England beat Croatia 4-2 on the 17th of June 2026. It was one of the most entertaining matches of the tournament's opening week. Goals from Saka, Bellingham, Foden, and Kane lighting up Arlington, Texas, in a performance that demonstrated exactly why Thomas Tuchel's squad came into this tournament among the genuine favorites. For those who were inside Dallas Stadium legitimately, the football was exceptional. But after the final whistle, a different conversation dominated the post-match discussion among the traveling England support. Multiple fans, speaking independently to multiple British news organizations, described the same scene at entry points around the ground. Gaps beside ticket checkpoints, people walking through without scanning anything, volunteers present but not actively enforcing access, and a steady stream of individuals entering a 60,000-capacity World Cup venue without the one thing they were supposed to have. The Times reported on it. The Daily Mail reported on it. The story reached FIFA's communications team within hours, and the response from football's governing body was precise and carefully worded. A FIFA spokesperson said, "At this stage, we have no indication of fans entering the stadium without a valid match ticket for the game in question." No indication, not a denial that it happened, an assertion that FIFA had not seen evidence of it. Which is a notably different statement when the evidence in question is the testimony of dozens of paying fans who were inside the same building. If you were following every story of this World Cup, subscribe now and hit the bell, because what happened in Dallas fits into a pattern that stretches back long before this tournament. Because to understand why the Dallas Stadium reports are so significant, you have to understand what happened at Hard Rock Stadium in Miami on the 14th of July 2024, the Copa America Final, Argentina versus Colombia, a venue that would go on to host 2026 World Cup matches, a night that should have been a celebration of South American football. Thousands of ticketless fans breached the perimeter, overwhelmed security checkpoints, created a dangerous crush at entry gates as the crowd surged. The match was delayed over an hour. Families with children were tear-gassed. Multiple people were hospitalized. The Miami-Dade mayor described herself as outraged. More than 20 people were arrested. FIFA and CONMEBOL reviewed that incident extensively afterward. They identified the problem clearly. It was not a lack of guards or cameras. Hard Rock Stadium had both. The failure was detection speed. By the time security teams recognized the perimeter breach as a coordinated surge rather than normal crowd pressure, the situation was already uncontrollable. The lessons of that night were supposed to be embedded into every security plan for the 2026 World Cup. The entire point of reviewing that Copa America disaster was to ensure it could not happen again on football's biggest stage. The point of spending over $1 billion on security across 16 stadiums was to close every gap, literally and figuratively, that had allowed chaos to unfold in Miami. And then, in the 17th of June in Dallas, fans strolled through the gaps. No crush, no tear gas, no hospitalization. The scale is not comparable, but the principle is identical. Ticket barriers with spaces at the sides, volunteers not equipped or empowered to enforce access, and individuals entering a World Cup match without the ticket they were supposed to have. England's squad had already experienced a separate security failure before this game even began. Earlier in the tournament, a van carrying the squad's boots and kit was stolen. The items were later recovered, but the incident added to a growing picture of a security operation that, despite its billion-dollar budget, was producing gaps where there should have been none. The numbers behind the Dallas Stadium security operation are genuinely staggering. FIFA's grant program alone allocated $625 million for tournament operations across the competition. FEMA distributed $846 million in preparedness grants to host regions. The federal government committed over $221 million specifically for counter-drone operations. Combined with state and local security budgets, the total exceeded $1 billion before a turnstile had been opened. That money funds personnel, physical barriers, and surveillance systems. The average NFL stadium, according to security analysts, runs between 800 and 2,000 cameras. A World Cup match generates more video feeds than any human team can monitor in real time. Research consistently shows that security operators experience alert fatigue within 20 minutes of continuous monitoring. Traditional camera systems produce false alarm rates as high as 98%. The gap between camera count and actual situational awareness has been a known problem in stadium security for years. FIFA knows this. The Copa America review told them. And yet the system that failed in Miami, the human-dependent, checkpoint-reliant, volunteer-supplemented approach to entry management, appears to have produced the same kind of gaps at Dallas Stadium that allowed the same kind of access to people without tickets. The timing of this story makes it particularly damaging, because the ticketing crisis at this World Cup has been one of the most discussed and most legally examined stories of the entire tournament. 2 attorneys general have subpoenaed FIFA over its pricing model. Fans are paying thousands for group stage seats. Bina Ramroop stood outside Atlanta Stadium with her 13-year-old grandson on his birthday, unable to get in with tickets she had legitimately purchased, while FIFA's technology failed her at the gate. Those are fans who had tickets and could not get in, and simultaneously at Dallas Stadium, there are credible reports of fans who had no tickets and walked straight through. The injustice of that juxtaposition does not need underlining. The fans paying the most, planning the most carefully, following the rules most diligently, are facing broken apps and revoked allocations and 11-hour queues at customer service. And the people who simply turned up and looked for a gap found one. FIFA's response to the Dallas Stadium reports has been to deny them. The governing body said it has no indication of any unauthorized entry. It did not say it would be investigating. It did not say it would be reviewing the entry footage from the venue. It did not say it would be speaking to the fans who raised the concerns publicly. No indication. Statement issued. Move on. But the fans who were inside Dallas Stadium on the 17th of June are not moving on. They are talking to journalists. They are sharing their accounts. They are describing, in consistent and specific terms, what they witnessed. And their accounts are being published by national news organizations with editorial standards and legal obligations. FIFA has built its entire ticketing and security narrative for this World Cup on 2 interconnected claims. First, that its ticketing system is the most secure and most controlled in the tournament's history. Every ticket linked to an identity, every transfer managed through its own official platform, no unauthorized resale permitted. Second, that its security operation across 16 stadiums is the most sophisticated ever deployed for a football event, backed by a level of investment that has never been seen before. Both of those claims are now being tested by reality. The ticketing system failed Bina Ramroop in Atlanta and dozens of fans like her across multiple matches. The security operation at Dallas Stadium produced gaps that paying fans say they watched people stroll through unchallenged. The tournament has more than 3 weeks still to run, 16 cities, hundreds of thousands of fans still to move through turnstiles, knockout matches with higher stakes and larger crowds still to come. The quarterfinals, the semifinals, and the final in New Jersey on the 19th of July. Each of those matches will draw the biggest crowds and the most intense security pressure of the entire competition. If the gaps that fans described in Dallas were real, they need to be found and closed before they appear at a match with even higher stakes. If FIFA's technology cannot detect when people are bypassing ticket checkpoints in real time, that is not a communications problem. It is a structural failure that the $1 billion already spent has not resolved. And if FIFA's response to credible, independently reported accounts from dozens of paying fans is simply to say it has no indication of a problem, then the organization responsible for the world's greatest sporting event is choosing to manage its reputation rather than to manage its security. The football at this World Cup has been extraordinary, match after match producing drama, goals, and stories that deserve to be celebrated on their own terms. England 4, Croatia 2, Messi's hat-trick, Canada's historic win, Tunisia's coach sacked mid-tournament, Algeria's formal complaint, the first red card for covering a mouth, the match that started in 64 seconds, story after story that football fans will retell for decades. And alongside all of it, a question that keeps returning from different angles, in different stadiums, in different languages. Whether the organization running this tournament, with its $1 billion security budget and its official ticketing app and its 508 million ticket requests, can actually deliver what it has promised to every single person who paid to be there. One fan paid $485 per ticket and went home with a refund she did not want. Others walked in without a ticket at all. The 2026 World Cup is 3 weeks old, and the gap at the side of the Dallas Stadium ticket barrier is the most eloquent summary of where this tournament stands.